Alright, what's going on, guys? Boy TG, welcome back to another video. So in this video, we are going to show you guys my top 10 matchups that I would want to see in the 2026 NHL Winter Classic. So the 2025 NHL Winter Classic at Wrigley Field is in the books. Blues won by a final score of 6-2 against my Chicago Blackhawks, which that was an embarrassing game from the Hawks at the Winter Classic. And yeah, now are currently on the losing streak as I'm recording this video. Lost 5 games now. They're now 0-5-0 in the Winter Classics. And they're 0-2-0 in Winter Classic games at Wrigley Field. Of course, like I mentioned already, and like you guys already know, they last played at Wrigley Field in 2009 when they faced the Red Wings and they lost 6-4. Now 0-5-0 Winter Classics. The Blues, on the other hand, are 3-0 Winter Classics, beating the Blackhawks twice, and then beating the Minnesota Wild in the 2022 NHL Winter Classic. So, yeah. But with that in the books and with that Winter Classic game out the way, we're going to go ahead and get started, and we're going to show you guys my top 10 matchups that I want to see in the 2026 NHL Winter Classic. And as always, make sure you like and subscribe to the TG Hockey channel, and make sure that you are following the Hockey Talk with TG podcast on all your podcast streaming platforms. So on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. It airs every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 11:30 a.m. to noon Central Time. So make sure you are staying up to date on each and every episode. Make sure that you are tuning in and listening and sharing these episodes. And as always, leave a comment down below. I would love to see you guys' comments, whether the comments I agree with, comments I disagree with. I would love to see you guys' comments on my videos, whether you agree or disagree with some of the stuff I say. All right, number one. My number one matchup that I want to see in the 2026 NHL Winter Classic will be the Winnipeg Jets taking on the Minnesota Wild at Target Field in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Of course, the Wild have already bet in the Winter Classic recently in 2022, where they faced the St. Louis Blues and they lost 6-4. I would love to see another Winter Classic game come back to the state of hockey at Target Field, which is where the Minnesota Twins play at. These are two Central Division teams right here, and both of these teams, rich hockey traditions. Like I said, Minnesota is the state of hockey. They have passionate fan bases as well, so Jets and Wild be an intriguing matchup to watch, and both of these teams are like neighboring regions, so they're kind of like close together. Not really. It's a 5-7 hour drive from Winnipeg to Minnesota. And it's an hour and 9-minute flight from Winnipeg to Minnesota. So obviously you would be taking the flight because nobody wants to keep wasting gas for 5 to 7 hours. And this will really be interesting to not just only Jets and Wilds fans, but also to hockey fans in general. So that will be a lot of views and a lot of people tuning in to the Winter Classic between the Jets and Wild. If we do get that Winter Classic matchup, if we do, I am all ears. I'm really looking forward to that Winter Classic matchup. Of course, both of these teams are really great teams. Jets are currently first in the league, I believe. The Wild are also one of the top 10 teams in the league in the President's Trophy race. So two really good teams and two Central Division teams, and I'm all forward to seeing a Winter Classic matchup between these two teams. So, yeah. Number 2, Detroit Red Wings taking on the Minnesota Wild. So, of course, this will be a Midwestern kind of matchup. Of course, the Red Wings have played in the Winter Classic before in 2009 and at 2014, where the 2014 Winter Classic was at Michigan Stadium. And now it's probably one of my favorite Winter Classic games. And I think 100,000 people. That stadium was just packed with Red Wings and Maple Leafs fans. Of course, that was an original 6 matchup in the 2014 NHL Winter Classic. The Maple Leafs won that game in a shootout by a final score of 3-2. But despite the loss for the Red Wings, it was a great Winter Classic for them and for hockey fans in general. And to see the Red Wings go up against the Minnesota Wild, that'll be an intriguing matchup right there. Of course, both East and Western Conference teams meet each other 2 times season. So It's very rare to see the Red Wings and Wild go at it, but I'm all ears for them being in the Winter Classic. Obviously, the Red Wings are not having their best kind of season. They're still trying to get used to their head coach, Tom McClellan, who has been with the team before in 2008 as an assistant head coach, and he won the Stanley Cup with the Red Wings in 2008. So, not very new to being in Detroit for Tom McClellan. But despite the Red Wings season, I would love to see him in the Winter Classic against the Minnesota Wild. It's a 13-hour drive. If you're driving uh, from Detroit to Minnesota, which I know nobody's going to want to waste a bunch of gas. But if you take a flight there, it's an hour and 41 minutes. All right, number three, I probably should have put this at number one, but Boston Bruins, Toronto Maple Leafs. Who doesn't want to see a Winter Classic matchup between the Boston Bruins and Toronto Maple Leafs? Two original six teams, two rivals going at it. And this could either be at Fenway Park, which is another iconic baseball stadium besides Wrigley Field, or Rogers Center, which is where the Toronto Blue Jays play at. I don't know too much about baseball, by the way, but so I basically just kind of looked this up. But I know the Bruins, but I know Fenway Park because, like I said, it's an iconic baseball stadium, and the Bruins have played their Winter Classic games there before, most recently being 2023. Before all the other stuff, I, basically just looked up because, like I said, I don't know too much about baseball. All right, historic rivalry. So, like I said, original six matchup: Bruins, Maple Leafs, Brad Marchand, and the Boston Bruins taking on Austin Matthews and the Toronto Maple Leafs in the Winter Classic. I am all in for it. Like I said, I probably should have put this at number one. And both teams have passionate fan bases. I know most people say the Maple Leafs have an annoying fan base, which I kind of find funny that they said that, but that's what I heard from the majority of people. And each of these teams have played in Winter Classic games before. Of course, the Bruins played in Winter Classics in 2010. That was at Fenway. 2019 against the Blackhawks at Notre Dame. They also played in 2016 Winter Classic against the Montreal. And then 2023, which was at Fenway again. So they have Winter Classic history. Maple Leafs also played in Winter Classic in 2014 at Michigan Stadium where they were going against the Red Wings, which, like I said before, was probably my favorite Winter Classic game. And this matchup will highlight the rich hockey heritage of both cities. So, like I said, lots of passionate hockey fans in both cities. So, I really think this will be a great matchup. And of course, playoff meetings, these teams have met in the playoffs a bunch of times, most recently being in 2024, where the Bruins beat the Maple Leafs in Game 7, like they always do. And David Pastrnak has scored the overtime game-winning goal in that series, in that game. From Boston to Toronto or Toronto to Boston, it's an hour. I mean, not an hour. It's 8 hours and 30-minute drive. And then from flight, it's an hour and 22 minutes. So if this beats a Winter Classic matchup, I will definitely tune into it. Like I said, I probably should have put this at number one. But I am all ears for another original six matchup in the Winter Classic. I know we had original six matchups in the Winter Classic before, like in 2009, Red Wings and Blackhawks, 2014, Maple Leafs and Maple Leafs and Red Wings, and then 2016, Bruins and Canadiens, 2019, Bruins and Blackhawks, and 2026 could possibly see the Bruins and Maple Leafs going at it in the Winter Classic. And if it is, I am all ears. I am really going to tune into this if it happens. And then number four, another original six Winter Classic matchup. Toronto Maple Leafs taking on the Montreal Canadiens. So this is another NHL rivalry, probably the oldest NHL rivalry so far. Probably one of my top 10 favorite rivalries in the NHL. So this rivalry dates back to the 20th century. And this will be Canada's largest cities going at it. I don't know if Toronto is a large city in Canada. It probably is. I've never been in Canada before, but I'm really looking forward to go. So if you guys are Canadian, comment down leave a comment down below and tell me some interesting things that are going on in Canada, or tell me some places in Canada that I should go visit. 'Cause like I said, I've never been to Canada before. I'm really looking forward to go there. So yeah. And I'm all in for the Maple Leafs and Canadians possibly going at it in the Winter Classic. Of course, this will feature two of the best leagues scores, Austin Matthews, and of course, I want to say Cole Caulfield, but I know I'm going to get chirped in the comments because Cole Caulfield, well, he has a great shot in his arsenal, and he could potentially be one of the league's best goal scorers. So I would love to see Austin Matthews and Cole Caulfield go at it and win a classic. And the teams have met in the playoffs a bunch of times, most recently being in 2021, where the Canadians beat the Maple Leafs in 7 games. Of course, Jesperi Kotkaniemi was still on the team, and that was when the Canadians had their Cinderella run to the Stanley Cup final. And both of these teams have large, passionate fan bases because, like I said, these are original 6 teams. This is a possibly one of the NHL's oldest rivalries. So they have large, passionate fan bases for the two teams. So this should be an interesting matchup. Um, it's a 5 hour and 20-minute drive from Montreal to Toronto, or Toronto to Montreal. And if you go by plane, it's an hour and 8-minute flight. All right, excuse me. Number 5, Florida Panthers, Tampa Bay Lightning, the Battle of Florida. Who doesn't want to see these teams go at it in the Winter Classic? And this will probably be, I would love to see this being played at Raymond James Stadium or Tropicana Field. Either or is fine with me. And both of these teams are really powerhouse teams in the league. Of course, the Panthers, they're the defending Stanley Cup champions. Of course, Tampa Bay Lightning most recently won the Stanley Cup in 2021, but they went to the Stanley Cup final. Their last run to the Stanley Cup final was in 2022, where they faced the Colorado Avalanche. They lost in 6 games, but I would love to see a Winter Classic game being taking place in Florida. Of course, Florida is a non-traditional hockey market. Not a lot of hockey is popular in Florida, but I'm pretty sure it kind of has been with the Panthers winning the Stanley Cup and those Florida teams being in the Stanley Cup final for the last, 4 years now, because Tampa won in 2020, 2021. They went to the finals in 2022, lost. Panthers went to the Stanley Cup final in 2023 and lost. And in 2024, they win the Stanley Cup. So I'm pretty sure that's hockey's is popular in Florida with that going on and stuff. And then these two teams that met in the playoffs before, most recently being in 2024, where the Panthers won their first ever playoff series matchup against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Of course, these two teams met in the playoffs before that in 2021, which was their first ever playoff meeting between the two teams, and the Lightning won. And then in 2022, I believe the Lightning had won against Florida. And in 2024, the Panthers finally beat the Lightning in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So this could make hockey very popular in Florida, like even more popular than it possibly is right now with the Winter Classic possibly happening between the Panthers and the Lightning. It is a 3 hour and 41-minute drive from Sunrise, Florida to Tampa, Florida. And by flight, it's 36 minutes, but I probably would just rather drive there or, take a flight there. But it's not that long of a drive. It's only 3 hours and 41 minutes. So I probably would just drive there instead of take a flight there. All right, number 6. New York Rangers, New Jersey Devils. The Rangers are not having their best season. I think they're dead last in the Metropolitan Division. I'm not 100% sure, but they are not having a great season so far. The Devils, on the other hand, are having the best season ever. But despite the Rangers not having the best of their season, I would still love to see them in a Winter Classic going up against the New Jersey Devils at Yankee Stadium. I know the Yankees have lost in the World Series to the LA Dodgers, which that was a great World Series. Like I said, I'm not really into baseball that much, but I will try to watch the World Series, and I will try to watch a few White Sox or Cubs games, but I'm not really a baseball person. But both teams have passionate and dedicated fan bases. From Newark, New Jersey to New York, it's a 28-minute drive. You don't really need to take a flight there because what's the point of taking a flight when those two cities, states are like close to each other? So, um, New Jersey, New York, two states close to each other. So there's obviously no point of taking a flight there. But Rangers and Devils, that would be a great Winter Classic matchup. Of course, the Rangers have been in Winter Classics before in 2012 against the Philadelphia Flyers and in 2018 against the Buffalo Sabres. The Devils have been, I don't think they've been in the Winter Classic, but they have been in the outdoor game before in the Stadium Series against the Philadelphia Flyers. Would love to see these two teams go at it in the Winter Classic. Obviously, Capo Caco is not on the Rangers no more, so no Jack Hughes and Capo Caco matchup. Capo Caco is on the Seattle Kraken, which I got to see him in his Seattle Kraken debut when the Kraken were facing the Blackhawks at the United Center. So he had a really good debut. Like I said, I got to see him in person, but he didn't end up getting on the score sheet. But other than that, I felt like he had a solid debut with the Seattle Kraken going up against the Blackhawks at the United Center. So yeah, Rangers Devils win a classic. I am all in. And these two teams have met in the playoffs before, most recently being 2023, where the Devils beat the Rangers in 7 games. And in a Winter Classic matchup would be very interesting. All right, number 7, Vancouver Canucks taking on Toronto Maple Leafs. I don't know if Vancouver has a baseball team, and I already said the Maple Leafs could have Winter Classic matchups at Rogers Center, which is where the Blue Jays play at. But I looked this stadium up, and it's actually a soccer stadium, but I still think it could possibly be a Winter Classic game here. BC Place in Vancouver, British Columbia. Like I said, Winter Classics usually have baseball and football stadiums hosting it, not soccer stadiums. So I know if you guys are going to chirp me about this, fully understand. Um, so, but if you take a look at these two pictures that I added, it is a really nice stadium to have a Winter Classic game. Of course, this is what it looks like on the outside. This is what it looks like on the inside. So, yes, I know it's a soccer stadium. Yes, I know the NHL usually doesn't have their Winter Classic games at soccer stadiums. But just taking a look at this, I feel like this could be where a Winter Classic could be at in Vancouver. And Vancouver is a really nice city in Canada. I mean, I took a look at the pictures. I saw a travel video of Vancouver, and it's a really nice city. Really great place in Canada to go to just by taking a look at the pictures and watching some videos of it. I mean, it seems like a great place in Canada to go to. And having a Winter Classic here will be like very interesting. Obviously, this will be a West versus East Canada matchup because Vancouver is on the west side of Canada and Toronto is on the east side of Canada. And some of these matchups that I'm showing you guys can actually be Heritage Classic matchups. Like if this isn't a Winter Classic matchup, I have no problem with it being a Heritage Classic matchup. And both teams have passionate fan bases. And this is a 4-hour and 41-minute flight from Toronto to Vancouver, Vancouver to Toronto. I think the drive will obviously take longer because, like I said, Vancouver's on the west side, Toronto's on the east side. And these two teams rarely see each other in the regular season because East and Western Conference teams meet twice each season, so not a lot of matchups going on. But to have a Winter Classic between Vancouver and Toronto at BC Place will really be interesting. Like I said, I know it's a soccer stadium, and I know I'm going to get chirped for this, but I still think it will be a great place to have Winter Classic at BC Place, which is, of course, a soccer stadium. And the arena looks very good on the outside, too, as well. So I'm all in for this Winter Classic matchup. Canucks, Maple Leafs, Quinn Hughes versus Austin Matthews in the 2026 NHL Winter Classic. All right, number 8. Another Canadian matchup. Toronto Maple Leafs versus Ottawa Senators. Battle of Ontario. I think these two teams have met in the playoffs before. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it was in 2004 where these two teams met in the Stanley Cup playoffs. This will be played. If we do see a winter classic between the Maple Leafs and Senators, I think it should be at Rogers Center. And the Senators are having a great season so far. They're in the wild card spot. They have a great team. Brady Tkachuk leading the way for the Senators. Tim Stützle leading the way. They have great goaltending in Linus Ullmark and Anton Forsberg. Of course, going out again, Linus Ullmark from the Boston Bruins was a big-time trade for Ottawa. So they're having the best season. They have a great forward group. They have a solid defense group. And I would love to see the Senators in the Winter Classic facing off against their rivals, the Toronto Maple Leafs, Battle for Ontario. It's a 4-hour and 14-minute drive from Ottawa to Toronto, and it's a 56-minute flight. So you can probably round that to like 1 hour flight from Toronto to Ottawa, Ottawa, Toronto. Ottawa is the capital of Canada, by the way, for those of you who did not know. And I would love to see a Winter Classic being played in Toronto between these two teams. Toronto, Ottawa going at it. So, yeah. All right, number 9, Seattle Kraken versus Vancouver Canucks. So the Kraken have been in the Winter Classic game before in 2024 where they went up against the VGK Vegas Golden Knights, and Joey Decoy had a shutout in that game for the Kraken, and the Kraken won 3-0 against the Golden Knights. Now it's a really great Winter Classic game for the Seattle Kraken, not only getting the shutout, but just based on how many people showed up for it, and it was like a big atmosphere, electrifying atmosphere to have win a classic at T-Mobile Park, which is where the Seattle Mariners play at. And Seattle and Vancouver are not too far from each other. Like Seattle, of course, is in the States. Vancouver's in Canada. But if you take a look on the map, Seattle and Vancouver are just like it's right on the border almost. It's right on the border. Seattle, Vancouver, not that far of a drive, not that far of a flight. It's just on the border from each other. It's a 2-hour and 46-minute drive. And it's a 45-minute flight. And I did see that Kraken and Canucks game the other day. The Canucks were leading that game 4-1. And then the Kraken came back from 3 goals down, tied it, won it in overtime by a final score of 5-4. And see these two cross rivals. Can't think of a better word for it. See these two go at it and win a classic. 2 Pacific Division teams, 2 possible rivals going at it. This will be very interesting. And like I said, it's not that far from each other. Seattle, Washington is right on the border of Vancouver. So if you really wanted to go to Vancouver for a Canucks game, it wouldn't be that far of a drive, I don't think. Because like I said, it's on the border. It's like literally touching each other. Just like Detroit and Windsor. Windsor is in Canada, by the way, and Detroit and Windsor are on the border of each other, so it's not that far of a drive. I think it's like a 9-minute drive from Detroit to Windsor, Ontario, Canada. So it's not that far from each other, just like Seattle and Vancouver aren't that far from each other. So I would love to see a Winter Classic game between the Kraken and the Canucks. Like I said, I know the Kraken had one in 2024. I would love to see them come have another Winter Classic in 2026 where they face the Vancouver Canucks. And last but not least, Colorado Avalanche taking on the Pittsburgh Penguins. So I was going to try and have this be at PNC Field, which is where the Pittsburgh Pirates play at, but I was trying to think more of a colder city or state to have it, which is, of course, Colorado. And this will be very interesting Winter Classic matchup between the Avalanche and the Penguins. So Sidney Crosby versus Nathan MacKinnon. Who doesn't want to see that matchup? And this will be very new for the Colorado Avalanche. I don't think they've been in the Winter Classic game, but they have been in the outdoor game in general against the LA Kings. And the Penguins, of course, have been in Winter Classic games. Most recently, 2023 against the Boston Bruins at Fenway Park. So this will be a very interesting matchup to see Sid and Nathan MacKinnon go at it. It's 2 Nova Scotia boys right there. and two best friends going at it in a Winter Classic. All right, guys, so that is going to do it for this video. So, of course, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think of these matchups. Do you agree or disagree with these matchups? Do you agree with half of them? Do you disagree with half of them? Let me know you guys' thoughts on this. I would love to see you guys' comments down below on these matchups. Whether you agree or disagree with the stuff I said, make sure to like and subscribe to the TG Hockey channel. Make sure to follow the Hockey Talk with TG podcast on all your podcast streaming platforms. So on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. It airs every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 11:30 a.m. to noon Central Time. So make sure that you are listening to each and every episode of the Hockey Talk TG podcast I put out. And that is going to do it for me, guys. And I will see you guys next time.